July is upon us, so now it's time for some new Dr. Sadler channel updates. I'm going to tell you about what went on during June, quite a busy month, what we've got coming up in July, again, quite a busy month. Before I do that, I've started this new practice of talking about three major things that I want to bring your attention to, and the three major things this month are indeed quite major. So the first of these is that we are actually relocating to the Midwest this fall. Specifically to Wisconsin, which is where I and my wife are both from. We actually went to high school together. And we're going to be doing it in a set of staged moves because we have quite a lot of stuff, much of which is books, that's going to have to make it to our new abode. And that's going to entail quite a lot of major changes. It shouldn't actually produce any significant changes as far as the YouTube channel goes. And really anything that I've got that's internet-based, that's portable, I'm going to be doing more or less the same sort of stuff. I'm going to continue with the half-hour Hegel, core concept videos, teaching online, all that sort of stuff can be done from anywhere. But it's going to mean some real changes as far as where I'm doing talks. I have to create a whole new network of local talk centers. Fortunately, I'm coming back to a place that I came from originally, so that should be pretty easy. By the way, if you're in Wisconsin, specifically in southeastern Wisconsin, and you're interested in having me come and give a talk, get in contact with me, Greg at Reason.io, and we'll work out some details. But that's some really significant news. We're also going to be stepping up once we're on the ground and well established. We're going to be stepping up some of the activities that we started doing here in the Hudson Valley, and we'll be doing in much more systematic and larger ways in southeastern Wisconsin, also the Chicagoland area. The second thing that I'd like to bring to your attention is that I've got a conference coming up in Boston at the end of July. It's about St. Anselm, somebody who I do a lot of work on. So Boston is actually a fairly small, big city, and if any of you viewers, fans, subscribers out there would like to meet up, I will be, I think it's at Boston College, who's hosting it. I will be there. I'll be giving a talk on the Wednesday of the conference, which I'll get to a little bit later on. And I'm going to be in the area, so if you'd like to meet up for a couple minutes, or for an hour, or have a beer, or who knows what else, get in contact with me. Again, Greg at Reason.io, and we'll see what we can do. I'll be there from the Monday through the Thursday of the conference. The other thing I've got coming up is a Plato class, specifically on Plato's Symposium. It's a 4-week Global Center for Advanced Studies online class that I'll be teaching, and it's going to start enrolling in about a week or so. I'll be putting out a video as an advertisement for that, and we'll actually get the class started with the first video session around the beginning of August. So that's coming up. If you've always wanted to study Plato's Symposium with somebody who's been reading it and rereading it for years and years and years, who actually did a course specifically on it, just on the Symposium for an entire semester in Greek, well, I'm your guy. The price is right, too. It's $150 for a 1-credit course, but there's also the possibility of auditing it for lower cost than that. But you'll see stuff about that in the video when I put it out. So let's talk about June. What went on during the month of June? I began the month by going up to St. Anselm College, where I did a summer research residency. I was hosted by the Institute for St. Anselm Studies, which is really great on their part. They put me up, and they gave me a per diem for food and travel expenses, and I worked on materials in the St. Anselm collection, the O'Rourke collection, in the Geisel Library. They have a whole room. You can see videos about this. I'll hit on that in just a moment. And I did work for the Institute and for the library with some of their dissertations, trying to produce abstracts and keywords for them. And I also did a lot of work on my own projects dealing with Anselm, including getting this paper ready for the conference that I've got in July. That ended with the metaphysics colloquium, which is always a great thing. That's one of the things that I may not be able to get to go to regularly once we move, but it's been great to be able to go to it while I've lived in this area where St. Anselm's is only 4 hours away. The metaphysics colloquium is a 2-day conference that is put on by the Institute for St. Anselm Studies, and it always deals with some issue or issues in metaphysics. This time it had to do with beauty and the nature of beauty, and artistic production, and how all those sort of things fit in. And it brings together some of the big heavy hitters in philosophy from the area, also a lot of people from St. Anselm's College, some of whom are also in that class of heavy hitters. It's a great time for me because I get to see old friends and talk about really cool stuff that I'm particularly interested in. So that was great. At the end of the month of June, we had the Aquinas Leadership Congress, and I presented a paper on, I presented points from my paper on Thomas Aquinas on anger and how that has to do with organizations and leadership. As it turned out, I presented for a lot longer than I was supposed to, in part because the other panelist for my session wasn't there. I've got a sound recording of that, which I'll release as a podcast before too long. They also got video of it, but unfortunately they were testing out a new mic and the sound cut out like 5 minutes into it. They were live streaming the event. So that I'll see if I can get my hands on it. If I can, I'll upload it in my channel once I've inserted the sound file. But it was a great discussion. The conference itself was wonderful. Some old friends, a lot of new friends and colleagues. It was relatively small, so I could go to all of the sessions until I needed to leave on Saturday to get back here to the Hudson Valley. One of the things that was really remarkable about it was it seemed like half of the people there had either purchased copies of or had read my book, which is, fairly rare. It's not the book that I'm talking about is Reason Fulfilled by Revelation, the 1930s Christian philosophy debates in France. It is translations preceded by a 100-page historical and thematic introduction and ended by something like a 20-page chronological bibliography. So, scholarly tool, not the sort of thing that you pick up for beach time reading or anything like that. And I would say there were more people there at this conference who came up to me and talked to me about my book than I have run into anywhere else since the book was published. So that was quite cool. They were all very happy with it. There's a lot of great things that are come out of that, including some talk invitations and some collaboration invitations. June has also seen a lot of work with the Global Center for Advanced Studies as they gear up for their conference this July about democracy, held in Greece, where things are really coming to a crux. I've been occupied much more with trying to build the Institute of Humanities and Social Sciences, working on the certificate program, getting classes lined up, meeting with the other directors and the board, trying to work out some of the nuts and bolts of the infrastructure of the institution. So that's been the focus for me. I've also done a lot of academic writing. I haven't done much blogging this month because I've been more focused on doing academic writing. I did give one talk at the library in the Understanding Anger series. This time it was on Epicureans, specifically Epicurus, some discussion in Cicero, Lucretius, and Philodemus, and their views on anger. It was very well received, and it actually started getting some traction among Epicureans on the internet, so that's pretty cool too. Continuing to teach my Marist ethics class. The students in that class are doing quite well. There's a few that are kind of marginal, a few cases of plagiarizing here and there, a couple students who are giving me the same old song and dance about, I didn't know the class started at this time. But for the most part, the students are really putting forth some great effort, so I'm happy with that. What else? June, we did some video work. I was only able to produce 4 half-hour Hegel videos, in part because we had some lighting problems near the end of the month, which put a crimp into video production of the up in front of the chalkboard part. But I did get 4 of them out this month, so that's great. People are supporting me still on Patreon. I'm very gratified to have that. I also did a Q&A session for my Patreon patrons. I've started releasing Epicurus core concept videos that I produced for my ethics class. That was one of the gaps in the available video materials. I released a few critical thinking videos, not as many as I would have liked in the fallacy series. I need to do more of those. But one of the things that was really cool is I did video blogging of my trip up to St. Anselm's and the research work that I was doing there. There's 4 videos that give you kind of an inside look at what the life of scholarship is like, you know, day by day by day, talking about the work that I was doing. Of course, I also recorded the Epicurus and anger talk, so you can see that if you're interested in that sort of thing. So that's June. Now, let's talk about the month of July and what we've got coming up this month. So, I got 3 main events going on. The first one is coming up next week. It is the Hegel Global Center for Advanced Studies Summer Reading Group, which is actually a closed group on Facebook, but if you email the group leader or organizer, Skipper Boatwright, he'll let you right in. And they've been reading the phenomenology, so I'm going to help them out with that. I said that I would tackle sections that other people weren't quite so interested in discussing. So this coming week, I am going to be talking about the second half of the self-consciousness section. The first half is the sexy master-slave dialectic that everybody always wants to talk about and, you know, everybody knows about. The second half is actually more important. The second half deals with Stoicism, skepticism, and what Hegel calls the unhappy consciousness. And it's focused on this ongoing development of freedom and the importance of what he calls recognition. So I'm gonna lead a session on that where I'll be doing quite a bit of lecturing, but a lot of Q&A, I suppose, as well, and some discussion. It's either going to be hosted on a Google Hangout or in a Big Blue Button session. I'll put more information about that as it becomes available. I've already created events for it in Facebook and Google+, so just, you know, stay tuned to that. If you're in the Hudson Valley and you're looking for some interesting discussion in the Understanding Anger series, on July 18th, 10:30 a.m., I've got Plutarch on anger. Plutarch actually wrote one book specifically on anger, and he discusses it in other places as well. Plutarch was what we call a Middle Platonist, which means that in effect he was Platonist but also rather eclectic. He would draw up on the Stoics, on the Aristotelians to some degree. Didn't like the Epicureans, but you know, most people weren't really that big on them. But we're going to be looking at that. Towards the end, like I mentioned, I've got this Anselm conference. I am going to be presenting July 29th at 2:30 p.m. And my talk is specifically on Anselm's prayers and meditations and on the interplay between divine justice and divine mercy in those. So those are the events that we've got coming up. I'm going to try to do some blogging this month in Heavy Metal Philosopher. By the way, at that conference, I got recognized as the Heavy Metal Philosopher by somebody who writes for Progarchy, of all things. Not exactly what you'd expect at a Thomas Aquinas conference, but, you know, pretty eclectic folk. I'm going to write for Orexis Dianoetike, my main blog. Needed to do that for a while. I'm going to try to do some entries in the Half-Hour Hegel blog as well. I probably won't be writing in Sadler's Existentialism Updates or Virtue Ethics Digest this month, but I'm hoping to do that later on. Got some academic writing to do. You know, got a lot of work underway. Some good inertia moving forward. It's not inertia, then it's impetus, right? And what am I going to be doing as far as videos? So this is going to be a good month, hopefully, for that. I've got a number of Epicurus core concept videos that I'll be releasing over the course of the month. More Half-Hour Hegel videos, more critical thinking videos, all of the Plutarch on anger talk, and I have an interview video with people important to the history of the Institute for St. Anselm Studies that I'm putting together that you'll see later this month as well. So have a good Independence Day weekend, have a good month, and tune in to some of these things, and if you're in the area, come to some of the talks.